So scientists say a new COVID variant discovered in the southern Africa is the worst seen so far. As a precaution, 6 African countries are being added to the government's red list, with flights to Britain suspended from midday.
Well, although cases have been identified in South Africa, Hong Kong and Botswana, there are no confirmed cases yet in the UK. Joining us now to talk about this more is travel expert Simon Calder and Professor Devi Sridhar, the Chair of Global Public Health at Edinburgh University. Good morning to both of you. Professor Devi Sridhar, if I can come to you first, because we thought that we were managing to be able to get cases to a level where things were going to be OK, and then now this comes along, potentially the worst variant yet. The government's obviously worried because they're taking this swift action. How concerned are you from what you've heard about this?
Well, yeah, so South African scientists have flagged this to the world, saying they have a new variant that could have more transmissibility and evade immunity, both natural and vaccine-induced. And obviously this is worrying now in Britain as we finally are in a position to seem to be in the next few months getting out of the pandemic. And so that is why these travel restrictions have put in place. It is not yet seeded here. We have a chance to get ahead of it and buy time to get more data to understand how do we manage this in the months ahead. So I think right now it's a preemptive move, but it's one to protect the progress that's been made so far.
And how damaging could it be? You talk there about the fact it could evade immunity. It could also be more transmissible. When we look at some of the figures that are coming out of South Africa, it does seem that there's been a big leap in the number of cases. And also, does this sort of point to the fact then that we've got to be worried about different mutation after different mutation?
Yeah, as long as the virus has a chance to circulate somewhere in the world, it is going to keep having mutations. And at some point, one of those mutations will have a selective advantage, being more transmissible, as we've saw with Alpha and Delta, or being able to kind of transmit among people who are fully vaccinated and make them ill, which we have. Hopefully it won't happen with this one, but that's what we're worried about. So I think it's to be expected. People shouldn't be worried. We will continue to hear about variants. WHO is having a meeting today among experts to determine, is this a variant of concern? What are the recommendations to governments? But I think you're going to see many countries going the way of Britain saying, we're not going to watch and wait like we've done in the past. We're on track right now. We have a booster campaign that's being successful. So why don't we actually just hold the progress we have and actually shut down travel, limit travel to those places where it could be imported from?
OK, well, let's talk to Simon about that, because, of course, Simon, as a travel expert, you know only too well how the travel industry has been hit by the pandemic. You're in central London. We can see you there this morning, and it's very early, but it's very busy. Life, as Professor Sridhar suggested, was sort of getting back to normal. We felt like we were getting beyond the pandemic. How much of a shock will this be to the travel industry, and how much of a hit?
It's absolutely catastrophic. Of course, people will be very, very concerned about the possibility of a new variant. And of course, a lot of people are going to say, well, we were too late with the Delta variant. We should have acted sooner. But at South Africa House, the High Commission just behind me here, they are absolutely furious, because it takes us back really just to almost this time last year, when the Beta variant was identified, known at the time as the South African variant, flight ban from South Africa. And the travel industry says, well, this is just destroying confidence. If it's possible for this to happen at almost no notice, people simply aren't going to have the confidence to book. And of course, on top of that, you've got tens of thousands of people with trips planned in various parts of South Africa and the rest of Southern Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, Zimbabwe and Namibia. And of course, you've got people who are trying to come back. And it's extraordinary. Just in the past hour, the first Virgin Atlantic flight from Johannesburg has arrived overnight. Those people go straight home. British Airways from Cape Town and Johannesburg, those flights are coming in the next half hour or so. And again, people will get off that plane and just go home as normal. But then the flight ban kicks in. No flights overnight tonight. There will be allowed on Saturday night, arriving on Sunday morning, but by 4 a.m., they will be going straight into hotel quarantine. That means over £2,000 if you're a solo traveller, and you're going to be there for 11 nights.
I mean, but the point I think that Professor Sridhar made that people will be waking up to this, Simon, thinking this morning is we need to buy ourselves some time. We need our scientists to be able to evaluate what this mutation is going to be and whether it's susceptible to our vaccine or not. And that's absolutely fundamental. The government has been accused of reacting too slowly in the past. So now they've preemptive strike, they've gone very early. Unfortunately, there's going to be casualties. And in this case, it's going to be the travel industry.
Oh, sure, yes, absolutely. And for goodness sake, what spread the virus around the world so quickly in the first place? It was international air travel. So there will be lots of people saying, yes, don't just ban this, ban it from somewhere else. But ultimately, if we are going to get back to anything like normal, then we have to be able to travel internationally. And very few people, I think, are going to be feeling especially confident today. I'm lucky enough to be heading off to Florida in about 3 hours' time, which is great for me. But who knows what could happen? There are hundreds, thousands of British people in South Africa now, people who are coming to see loved ones over Christmas who are now wondering what they do. It's an absolute... There's lots and lots of emotional as well as economic damage caused by this.
Yeah, all sorts of ramifications, aren't there? Professor Sridhar, from the point of view Simon Calder was saying there about, you know, in the meantime, flights continue to land, don't they? And those people are getting off planes right now and they're going straight back home with presumably no monitoring, no testing. Are you worried about the fact that, you know, it only takes sort of one case for potentially this to start to spread very quickly?
Yeah, no, that is worrying. I think all those passengers should be given guidance, even though it's not legally enforceable, to say to them, you could be infected with this, test regularly, and limit your contacts in the next week. Don't be going into crowded nightclubs and places where many people can be infected. Try to limit it at least until you've gotten 1 or 2 negative tests in the next 10 days. But there are constant trade-offs, and the trade-off right now for the government is, do we risk another winter lockdown, a shutdown of the domestic economy? Think of hospitality, think of leisure centers, you know, gyms, fitness clubs, schools, all the things that we had to shut down, unfortunately, and tragically last year? Or do we say, okay, the greater good is trying to keep things open domestically, get back to normality, and unfortunately, the cost is going to be having to limit travel. And that's the kind of decisions right now that, you know, politicians are making.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there. But Professor Sridhar, good to have your thoughts. And Simon, safe flight to Florida. Enjoy that sunshine as it's getting very cold over here.
Let's just hope you make it back. I'm not stuck out there for a while.
Although there could be worse places to be stuck.
That's fair enough.
Do get in touch with us as well. Perhaps you were hoping to have family members, because there's lots of family members in Africa, as Simon was saying, that are coming home for Christmas. And now have those plans been thrown into disarray because of this? I think you can't get away from the fact, as Professor Sridhar was saying, our scientists need time to try and work out how we can cope with the variant. But, of course, life has to go on, as Simon's saying as well.
It does just point to the fact, like he was saying, does it undermine that trust? Because if you're thinking, shall I book a holiday, anywhere really, it just shows how quickly that travel advice can change now, that you could potentially be in a situation where all of a sudden you have to change your plans at short notice, or you get
you're burdened with a huge bill
to
come back. You're suddenly going to have to quarantine £2,000 in a hotel somewhere.